And today we have an exciting topic. It has nothing to do with China, and it has everything to do with leadership and psychology. And for those of you, I know that many of you here know me through either LinkedIn or through some other channels. For those of you that know me, you see that I talk about China quite a bit. But psychology, and especially success psychology, is another huge passion of mine, where I put in also a lot of hours and a lot of focus. So today we're going to talk exactly about that. Why did I think it was a great topic? Well, all of us are going through some difficult times right now in terms of our businesses, our industries, and also the way we manage our psychology, our teams, our essentially future. So I wanted to, within this 1 hour chat, pass you over a couple of extremely important knowledge points that I have accumulated in the past 3.5 years. So today, first of all, what I want to do is I want to tell you my story. If you have any questions about my story and how this psychology of success specifically helped me arrive where I am today, happy to answer, drop them below. Secondly, I want to give you some basics of psychology. And we're talking about 3 types of psychology. Let's say positive psychology, human needs psychology, and the final one is psychology of success. So I'm going to give you some basics. And number 3, I'm going to answer the question, what are the 3 tips that leaders shall in fact do right now? And these are not going to be just some tips, fluffy things. These are going to be actionable insights, something that you can do every single day, every time you are leading yourself or others. So this is my outcome for today. And I plan to talk for about 30 to 40 minutes. And then I'm going to open it up for questions. So whenever, again, you have something to ask, anything to say, just drop it in the chat below, and I'm going to try to answer as many questions as possible. Okay, so we're going to go straight into that. I would like to start with telling you a little bit my story and why psychology is such an important topic and passion of mine. Well, I started my business in 2011, and when I started my business, it was more of a, okay, let's open a company in Hong Kong. So it wasn't a very, kind of pre-contemplated decision. I never thought in my childhood that I would be an entrepreneur. And then as I was bored at my official role in another company, I thought, okay, what's the worst thing that can happen? I open my company, it doesn't work. I basically go back to work for somebody else. That's how it started. And for the first couple of years, just like I'm sure many of you are entrepreneurs on the line, for the first couple of years of entrepreneurship, it's really tough. So you're constantly going through this motion. You used to be somebody like a big guy or a smaller guy in a corporation, and you get some respect. But when you're a startup entrepreneur, especially back in the day, people literally like disregard you. They say, oh, you're from a small company, or you're your own boss. So basically you instantly have this completely different position, who you are and where you are. And it takes courage, it takes time to actually build yourself up, right? It takes time to get the clients that you want. It takes time to get your business financially, healthy, etc. And when I started my business, up until this moment, so we never took money from banks, so basically all the money came from my pocket and then invested in the business, and that's how the whole business grew. So it was a interesting, very exciting, but also scary time, okay, as an entrepreneur. And I went through it all. I've had clients that were not paying me. I had business partners that were not, supporting or delivering on their commitments. I had times when I did not know how will I pay for my rent or for my people. I had more than several years when I did not pay myself any salary. So, you would feed your kids first, you would feed your organization first, but you would not pay yourself. So I've been through all of that up until one point where our business, through obviously a lot of pivots, arrived at a place where we won a very big client. And in order to serve that client, I realized one thing. I had to change the way I am, the way I operate, the way I view this business, etc. So I didn't know how to get there. So I started reading a lot of books and taking online courses, and all that was great. But then I found a person who is specialized in success psychology, and she coached me. That lady was phenomenal. I had 6 lessons with her. She's working with people that essentially suddenly achieve huge success. For example, you suddenly win golden medal at Olympics, and now all the media in the world wants to speak with you. So you instantly get a certain level of exposure or success. And she had 6 sessions with me. They were phenomenal because she showed me what could be. She put me on the path of this learning psychology to apply it as a leader. And on that path, I started developing. I basically quickly figured out that Tony Robbins is a great role model in many ways because he built this industry of personal development and happy, clappy psychology. I figured out what are marathons, mental marathons, etc., etc. So after that, after I changed the way I think about myself, the way I approach business decisions, the way I approach team, after I figured out how to handle proper relationships with money, everything changed. We right now work with huge clients. I right now have a very independent, very good team. I right now feel finally like a business owner, not a business operator. And that is why I'm telling you all that, not because I want to impress you, but again, because I want you to know that I started here. I was a small, tiny business owner that couldn't pay for anything. And basically in 3.5 years of studying success psychology, it got me to become LinkedIn top voice. I'm not afraid to share my voice, to do thought leadership, to write books, to go and work with clients like Coca-Cola, for example, when it might be scary for a small company. I'm under 20 people. So all of that happened, and I credit it to success psychology. So why right now is the time for us to actually focus on this psychology? Because you need to understand, if something is not working in your business, something is not working at your workplace, it always starts with you. It means you need to work on yourself first. And there are 3 types of psychology that I, as mentioned, want you to know and go deep into. First of all, positive psychology. And it's not about, just being constantly happy and constantly happy and clapping and all that stuff. It's about understanding that inside you, there are 2 minds. And one of that selves is a narrating self, and the other self is the experiencing self. So there are 2 parts to your brain, and this is science. Again, this is not a science fiction. This is actually science. And your narrating self is the guy or the girl who is actually telling you a story of what is going on right now. And we never consciously choose what kind of story that person is telling you. Is it a thriller? Is it a drama? Is it a comedy? Is it an adventure? But based on that story, based on that genre that they prefer, it basically gives all the colors to your life. And it gives all the spin to all stories in your life. So this positive psychology, it teaches you to recognize and retrain your narrating self. For example, I'll give you an example. And that was actually one of the questions, because I had more than 120 questions submitted to me prior to this webinar. So one of the questions was, has Corona impacted you personally? And if so, how do you cope with all the stress? So of course, Corona impacts everybody personally. And one of the impacts that I had a lot of positive impacts. For example, our business is growing because everybody right now wants to revise their China strategy. That's great. But on the negative way, I was also impacted because, for instance, there are a couple of team members on my team whose family businesses suffered. For example, one team member's family has a restaurant. And right now she will have to go back because that restaurant is suffering. She will have to go back and basically start helping her family. So she will be transitioning and leaving my company. And, this is totally, obviously not a happy move. So has it impacted me? Yes. But through positive psychology, I am able to control the story that my narrating self is telling me. And the story is, it can be a drama. Oh my God, everything is so bad. We right now have so many projects, but right now a cool person from my team is leaving. Or the story can be, this is an opportunity. And essentially, when you believe, your brain finds a way to find how to realize that line of thought. So you say this is an opportunity, and your brain instantly goes and looks for ways to prove that, yes, this is an opportunity, and that's how we can develop it. From my business, I can tell you, I had a lot of people leaving at crucial times just because I hire a lot of mainland Chinese, for instance, and sometimes they need to go back home or they have some family issues. But every time there was a change in personnel, every single time we had an upgrade of the team. So it was always something positive down the road. So I already have that verification, and I already have that confirmation bias. So positive psychology, there are a lot of courses on it. It is proven that to be positive is a skill. It is just like anything else, it's a muscle. So you can learn it. And you need to start noticing as a leader, what is your usual genre? When you tell yourself stories, do you constantly complain? When somebody tells you news, bad news, do you want to dig deep and develop the bad news? Or do you want to, distance yourself from it? All this is extremely, extremely important. Not just because you want to be positive, but because as a leader, you must be positive. Nobody wants to follow a pessimist. Nobody wants to go for worst case scenario. You need to be a calculated optimist in order to be successful in 2020 as a leader. And especially when we talk about times like this, when we talk about crisis and uncertainty, and everybody is looking for somebody to guide them, to tell them how is it going to be going forward, and what is my role in this, and how we're going to go through this all together. Now, the second type of psychology that you definitely need to know about is success psychology. So for me, the big discovery was that success doesn't just happen to people because they work very, very, very hard. It doesn't just happen to people because they get lucky. Success is a formula. And if you want to be as successful as a certain person, you need to go back, break down this person's journey into elements, and follow that journey, follow those steps. Success leaves tracks. And you can deconstruct it and essentially do the same things what this person did. So look at the most successful people. I mean, they're committed to what they are doing. They are very often investing a lot of time and money into developing themselves and getting those skills in. They are very good with their teams one way or another. Again, there are different managerial models. We're not talking about them, but they're very good with their team. They're able to guide it, give it clear visions, etc. So it is important to find the role model and break down the steps of this role model and start following them. I'll give you an example. When I was just starting out, I was very fortunate. I started basically putting videos online about China. And for the first half a year, nothing happened. I believe that the first 4 months, literally, I had 0 people watching me online. And there were maybe like 8 views on my videos. Only my friends on Facebook watched them. And then one of the videos went not viral, but there were 2,000 views on that video on YouTube. And basically I continued and continued and continued. Slowly and gradually there were more and more followers on YouTube channel, but still it's not hundreds of thousands. So at that one point, Alibaba invites me to come to this global influencer group, which is, they have a group of 10 global influencers, people that talk about China, to basically join them and meet top executives of this corporation and basically celebrate this 11/11, the biggest shopping day in the world, with them. So it's a cool opportunity, once in a lifetime opportunity. So I went there. I was the youngest. I was the most junior at the team. Everybody else was, were people with like millions of followers on social media. They were established New York Times best-selling authors, etc. So I got to that group and I was like, wow, that's amazing. And what did I learn? I learned that, first of all, they are ordinary, normal, good people, just like everybody else. The second thing I learned that, okay, everybody but me has a book. Great, they got here because all of them are authors and it's cool to be an author. So I got back and I wrote my first book. I had all these presentations that I delivered before about China. So I put it together and I published my first book. So that's what I mean by breaking down those steps. Then I figured out, okay, if I want to be like somebody here, what do they do? Oh, they have a blog, they have this, they have that, they have this kind of partnerships, etc., etc. So I start executing. Find yourself a role model, and I want you to do not aim instantly too high. For example, if I would be 3 years back and I would say I want to be like Oprah Winfrey, maybe she's just too far away and my brain doesn't know yet how to get me there. So you need to choose somebody who is, I would say, 5 to 10 years ahead of you. Break down their journey and then just follow step by step. So success psychology is focusing on breaking down those journeys and understanding how you can obviously follow somebody's example, not copying them, but following somebody's example. But most importantly, it is the psychology that talks about you maintaining your energy, maintaining your most important resource. And for a lot of people, they feel that in our life, the most important resource is money or time or whatever. It's not true. The most important resource in your life is your energy. And if you have enough energy, you are able to do anything. If you have time, but you don't have energy, you can't do stuff, right? So your energy is your most important resource. And the good news is you are in 100% control of that resource. It is, again, a skill, and you need to train yourself to constantly live at the high emotional tone. And what do I mean by high emotional tone? So essentially there is this concept of emotional tonality. It can be from very, very low, you feel miserable, to being somewhere in the middle, like being kind of neutral or sad or being bored, to being excited, to being having fun, to acting, and then to basically being totally, totally charged. So this emotional scale tone, it has more than 40 or 50 different emotions on that scale. You need to know that if you are at a low emotional tone, you cannot make good decisions. In other words, when you are in the bad state, when you feel sad, when you feel frustrated, when you're angry, you cannot make a good decision. You can't, because you are acting out of your state. You're acting out of your emotion. If you are at a high emotional state, everything that you are doing, first of all, is fast, it is energetic, it is charged, and you make good decisions in a good emotional state. So as a leader, you need to be residing, your home, your place where you usually are, must be high. And the most successful leaders in this world, they live there. They're very emotionally charged people. And it is possible to go from here up there and stay there as your home, right? It doesn't mean that sometimes we don't feel down. I feel down sometimes. I feel annoyed sometimes. I feel angry sometimes. We are all human beings. But you know that at the time when you need to act, in the times when you need to show up, for example, for your team, I cannot come into my office and be unhappy or angry or something like that. I cannot. I need to show up in my office in a positive state, in a resourceful state of mind. And if something is not to my liking, I can express it. I can talk about it. I don't need to sugarcoat it, but it shall not be from that angry standpoint. It is my responsibility and only my responsibility to show up in the office at my workplace in a resourceful state. Okay? So out of this resourceful state, you can lead yourself better because, as I mentioned, you can make better decisions. Number two, out of this resourceful state, you can lead others. Remember how I said people want to follow those that are calculated optimists. So you charge others. And of course, out of that state, essentially, when you meet people with very low energy, there are two things that can happen. If somebody has very low energy and you have high energy, you essentially will, kind of balance each other out. So you will not speak with people that are very, very low and you are low, and then you're basically going down. You will basically raise people up to your level. So people around you will also be charged. They will be in your field. Some people say that you've got this aura. And when I talk to you, Ashley, I also get charged. And even through this like digital means, I can feel so much power and so much energy. All this is my high emotional state. So in terms of success psychology, these are the things that you need to really pay attention to. The last type of psychology, and we are done after this, we are done with our theory. Okay, the last type of psychology that you really need to know about is human needs psychology. In essence, you need to understand that all human beings only have 6 needs, 6 human needs. And these are need for safety, need for, or we call it need for security. And the other one is the need for variety. And then there's a need for love and connection. There's a need for growth, and there's need for contribution. And I missed one. There's certainty, uncertainty, variety, and certainty. Let me write them down. But basically, the 6 needs of psychology. Too excited to tell you the story. And you need to know what are your most important needs. So do you value, for example, safety? Is that what's important to you? Or do you value variety? Because if you value safety or variety first as your most important need, the way you build your life will be completely different. Once you understand it for yourself, for instance, for me, when I looked at my 6 needs, it was love and connection, and it was significance. That's the last one that I forgot, is significance. So love and connection and significance are two needs that are actually contradicting each other. And you will be able to change what is most important to you once you understand how that psychology works. But basically, you need to know it about yourself. If, for example, significance is the most important, great. Then you are all about, you can show up in positive or negative ways. It's all about, I want more people watching me. I want to command a lot more people. I want to basically grasp the power. I want me to be significant. If that is truly what, and you probably know a lot of leaders that are like this, even without realizing, that's just their kind of default place. Significance for them is number one, right? And there are other leaders that say, oh, it's all about community. It's all about, giving others. It's all about love. It's all about that. The way they show up, the way they run their businesses or communities is completely different. So understanding what is your most important need is crucial, because first of all, you can change it if you don't like what you see. Secondly, if you like what you see in terms of your priorities, you can also change the way that need is being fulfilled, because you can fulfill it in a positive way or you can fulfill it in a negative way. For example, in the positive way, if my most important need is significance, in a positive way, I can be significant by helping others. I can be significant by learning something new and something very important. I can be significant by, again, becoming a thought leader in order to give this knowledge out, etc., etc. Or I can get significance by, let's say, abusing others. I can be really ruthless, really rude. I can also blackmouth others and feel more significant because of that. So these are positive and negative vehicles to get there. So first, as I said, it is important for you to understand what are your most important needs. And second, which is even more important for leaders, is to understand within your team, what are the most important needs of your team members? In other words, of your direct reports. For somebody, contribution is important. For the other, variety. They cannot do monotonous work, right? For somebody, it's, again, safety. They really want to make sure that every month on the 28th, they get that salary and they are secure and safe. You need to understand that. And the moment you will be able to understand that, you will be able to have a different quality, a different depth of relationship with your direct reports. At the same time, you will be able to enter the world of those other people, enter their world without judgment. Because very often in this life, myself included, we judge others, right? And you can basically be the observer and say that there's no good, there's no bad, there's just my way and there are ways of other people, and I accept it. And this is a very healthy, mentally, it is a very healthy standpoint, right? As long as nobody is harming me, as long as people maintain my boundaries. And by the way, my boundaries I set by myself. The world doesn't give me my boundaries. The world is going to push you up until you say stop, right? So it's either that position, or the other position is, okay, I'm correct, my way is right, and everybody else is wrong. And when I disagree with something, I really basically push and squash and make sure that people either comply or they're out of my life. So this human needs psychology will give you these crucial insights, and you will be a much more effective leader. Now, we are done with our first two parts. I told you my story, and I told you about the basics of psychology, 3 types of psychology that I definitely want you to get your hands on going forward. Now, in terms of actionable tips, I promised you there will be actionable tips. So the first tip that I would like to give you is how to maintain high emotional state. Okay, this is something that is trained. This is something that is possible to acquire just like that. In literally 1 minute, you can acquire that skill, but you need to practice it. When you want to get to that high emotional state, you need to essentially do something. And what is that something? 2 things. First of all, every single morning, you need to do priming. What do I mean by priming? It means you need to move, jump, shake yourself switch on music, be silly, whatever it takes, in order to get your blood going, your heart pumping, your hands going up. It's not because, again, I like happy clappy and weird people jumping and doing things at the stadium. No, it is scientifically, again, proven. Everything is science. Everything I'm talking about here is truly science. It is proven through research. It is proven through experiments. Everything is science. The moment you activate your system, certain hormones are being pumped into your blood. You feel much better and you move yourself up on this emotional tone scale. So what I personally do, and I do it every single morning without a fail, doesn't matter where I go, whether I travel internationally, whether I had a good night or bad night, short night or long night, I do it every single day. I wake up in the morning, I drink a glass of water to wake myself up, and then I switch on 1 to 2 songs. And these songs need to be fast, energetic, and for example, one of my favorites is Celebration by Kool and the Gang, or Get Down on It, you know the song? Also by Kool and the Gang. Or right now I'm listening to this, Your Love is Getting Me Higher and Higher. Super cool songs. Find whatever gets you going. Or for instance, I love this Pink by Aerosmith. Oh, it's a gorgeous song. So then you stand in your room. If you have a partner who is willing to try that with you and do that with you, do it with your partner. If your partner is not in that kind of thing and they think that you're crazy, then better do it alone. You can go into the bathroom, lock yourself and do it. You need to jump. Let me show you what actually happens. Okay, I hope that you will be able to hear me. And essentially, I would like you to jump and get your blood going. Yes, just like that. You can do the silly things. You can shake your ass. You can clap. You can do funny movements, whatever you want. Okay, it may sound weird. And I know I'm going to speak from experience. The first time when I saw people doing that, I thought it was a cult. Okay, I was sitting there, I saw people, I was like, oh my God, this is a cult. This is definitely something really weird. Something went wrong. These are adults. What is going on? It is science. It gets you into a cool mood. If you can sing together with the song, sing together with the song. If you can say things that get you in the mood, like I am a gladiator, or I am awesome, or I am something, you can say that. But the most important thing, you need to get yourself awakened. You need to get this blood pumping and the hormones will kick in. You will feel, I guarantee you, much, much, much better than before you did that exercise. So do it every morning. The second thing, never, and I repeat you, never ever join an important meeting, walk into important kind of discussion or an important phone call without doing your priming. A shorter version of what I did just now. A shorter version of that. Why? Because the person with highest energy in the room always wins. If you want to be the most present person, the most certain person at a meeting, on a phone call, you need to do that priming. It does not come naturally. You need to train it. The more you train it, the easier it will come. You will just move yourself and you get there. So it is a trained skill. Every time I do a phone call, I basically go to the bathroom and then I pump, I jump, I move, I shake my ass, I clap. You know, I get that blood going. You don't need to do it for 4 or 5 minutes before each meeting, but 1.5, 2 minutes is definitely a must. Up until the point that you feel your blood really circulating, and you will just, honestly, you will start noticing that pump of hormones, the happiness hormones or whatever, productivity hormones I like to call them. So this is my tip number 1, high energy. The second tip would be about your role, okay? And what I called in our, I think, description for this chat, it basically says acting your role. And this is a completely different flip of this whole psychology. Acting your role, it means that essentially in all our life, right, we have different roles. For example, I am a daughter, I am a wife, I am a friend to my friends. I am also a boss. I am also a colleague. I am also a business partner. I'm also, I don't know, a sister to my brother, etc. We have all these different roles. And there is psychology, which is called psychology of constellations. Constellation, it's essentially like a system. And in that line of thought, in that psychology, we are talking about each person in each specific system having only one role. For example, what is a system? Let's think about something big like solar system. In solar system, we have all these planets and we have the sun. So within the system, sun has the role, and the role is to attract all these other planets, etc. And only in this one system, there's only one place for sun to be at. So the sun, it needs to be the center of that system. Or let's talk about the human being one system. There's a heart, there's liver, there's stomach, etc. So if suddenly stomach would want to go up and do the work and the job of the heart, would that work? That wouldn't work, right? Because it's not its natural role. So in every system, each element of the system has its clear role. So you have a system at work. When we talk about right now leadership, we talk about this specific system. At work, you have several roles. You have the role of the boss, you have the role of a colleague, you have the role of a, I do not know, a peer or whatever. You have these different roles. And each, you can break it down to very, very small entities. For example, I have my colleague Natalia, and I have myself. This is the system. Ashley and Natalia, this is one system. And our relationship. So what is my role in that relationship? Are we friends? Am I just a colleague? Are we peers? Or am I the boss and Natalia is my marketing director? Right? There can, and that's what I think for me was the most difficult thing to understand, because I read so many books which said, you know, if you work in a modern company, you need to be friends to all your colleagues and you need to, you know, take care of them and it needs to be like a family, etc., etc. And I did that for the longest time. I was truly a mother to many of the kids in my businesses. But then I realized that was me taking the unnatural role. I'm not a mother when I come to the office. I'm not a friend. I'm not just a peer. I am essentially a boss. And yes, I can be a very friendly boss. And yes, I can be, you know, in phenomenal relationships, and you need to do all that. But my role in that system is very, very clear. What I meant by you as a leader need to know what within each system, what is your role, is because very often, myself included, we go into leadership, we go to work, we go to business, and we assume unnatural roles. The same thing happens in life. When you talk about, let's say, your family, right? There is mother, father, and there's a child. This is your family. It's the most basic system. So usually when children grow up, at one point, they start taking care of their parents. They start giving money to their parents, or they start teaching their parents how to live, how to do better. We do it because we love them, because we care for them, but you're breaking the system. In the system, parents and child, you are the child. You entered the system after your parents. So this is not your role. You need to be at a different role. You at this particular section of your life can be tutoring, for example, your children, but not your parents. Otherwise, it again breaks the relationship. And a lot of problems come out of this. So I urge you to also study psychology. It's called psychology of business constellations, where you very clearly need to define what is your role. So what is the practical tip here? The practical tip is every time you feel something is wrong, the relationship with the person, something is not working out in the department, etc., etc., cross-check. Are you at your place? Are you acting the role that you shall be acting in this specific system? Is the other person acting their role? And as an extension to that tip, I would give you another one, which is when you see that the system is not working, obviously get back to your original role. And if you're mentoring others, if you look at your colleagues and you see that their relationship is not balanced, they are not in the right places in that system, you need to ask them to write a manual for how shall I behave and how shall, let's say, they behave in this specific system. I'll give you an example. A couple of months ago, we had two of my good colleagues having a bit of misunderstanding, and there was a lot of frustration going around, and you know, they just didn't feel like they understood each other, and that frustration was just through the roof. And in a small office, as I said, we are below 20 people. every person is extremely important. Their mental state, the way they work with the rest of the team is extremely important. So when that broke up, I said, okay, we need to really look into this. Now, do you understand your place in the system as of our big system, which is our company? Do you understand how important are your roles? Okay, great, you understand. Now, what is your relationship? What is this other system that you are in, you and you together? What is your relation? Do you understand? Okay, there was a bit of confusion there. Great. Now, when you understand this relationship, person A, person B, let's write the manual for what do you as person A expect person B to do as a extension of this relationship, and what do you, person B, expect person A to do? As a simple example, that would be, I do not know, you marry somebody, right? You get married. And very often people feel that, oh, you know, I got married and the other person, for example, I'm a lady and I married a gentleman, so the other person needs to do something for me. That's what, you know, I expect. No, wrong. Every relationship, apart from children and parents' relationship, every relationship in your life, at work, outside of work, it is an equal relationship. It is equal. Nobody owes anybody anything. It's an equal relationship. So when you enter this relationship, at the same time, it is equal. And everything that happens in that relationship is your agreement. Unfortunately, in our world right now, very few people have an agreement. For example, what kind of husband do I need to be for you? What kind of wife do I need to be? Or what kind of colleague do I need to be for you? Make sure that whenever conflicts arise, you actually write very clearly and ask your colleagues to write, or whatever the situation is, a clear manual. What are the expectations? Not you tell them what your expectations for them are, but person A writes expectation for person B writes expectation for person A, and then you can monitor that and you can essentially guide them towards this agreement. And that creates a lot of clarity in personal life, and it creates a lot of clarity at work. So that's what I mean by acting your role at work. So these were my major insights. I hope that you found them useful in terms of the types of psychology that are important and what are the basic concepts. And secondly, the tips, the tip of being in high energy all the time. So what do you do every morning? That's right. Every morning you do priming, you jump, you really get that energy pumping. At the same time, every time before a call or important meeting, you also prime yourself. It's not fluff, it is science. Second tip, acting your role, making sure that you understand what is your place in the system and what is the place of all other shifting parts in your team, in your business, etc., etc. And if something is not working out, definitely revise your manual. Definitely look at that manual and see where is the mismatch, where the agreements are not clear. Now, I'm going to open it to questions. So you can ask any questions that you guys have. I want to make sure that I serve you as much as possible. And I see my colleague here sending me a couple of your requests. Okay, here the first question. What book do you recommend to learn about more about human needs psychologists? Okay, so check out Tony Robbins. It's called Awaken the Giant Within. I believe, I'm not sure whether I have it here, but yes, it's called Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins. He talks about human needs psychology there. It is very powerful. You can also YouTube, there are a lot of videos, Tony Robbins and a couple of other people talking about human needs psychology. Next question, can Ashley share her book list for psychology study for beginners? Yes, I can definitely share a couple of books that you can read. I think my first book, it's very easy. It's a popcorn book. It's not very deep, but the first book that I read, and it was more than maybe 14 years ago, or 13 years ago, but it was long time ago. It's called Greatness Guide by Sharma. The Greatness Guide, yeah. And that is a very simple book because you basically read one pager, you flip, and it's another page, and each page is a tiny, short, little concept. So it was very easy for me to consume. Here is another question: how to express leadership in remote setup? Okay, so if you are, for example, like us right now in Hong Kong, we are on lockdown as well. in official lockdown like the rest of the world and much of Europe, but we are self-isolating. We are not really going to the office that often, and we're working primarily remotely. So the first thing that you need to do, you need to give people clarity and reassurance. You need to tell people very clearly, get them all on the call, tell them very clearly, okay, what's happening right now? What's next? And what is next? The fact that we are going to work from home, our business is doing well, this is how we're going to do it, this is what kind of tools we're introducing, that's how the communication style, communication will go, etc., etc., etc. So essentially making sure that your people know how this new arrangement is going to go is very important. The second thing, you need to speak with each of your team members, at least your direct reports. I understand that some people here have 200 employees, but I'm talking about your direct reports. Speak with them individually to make sure that they are comfortable with the arrangement. Maybe they have something that they're going through, maybe they don't know how to use some tools, etc. Just make yourself available, because this is leadership. Especially working here in Asia, sometimes our colleagues are not really upfront about, you know, some of their problems, and this is just cultural, right? So you need to be proactive to make sure that they're comfortable and that you're opening the door. You say, if there's how else can I basically support you? If there's anything else that I can do, just keep repeating that, and people will feel more and more comfortable to speak with you about that, and essentially to dig and dive into that. How else? Definitely create a new structure. In our team, for example, we right now have WhatsApp group. We joined Asana, which is the project management software. We've been on Slack for years. So right now, every morning before 10, we have every team member sending their outcome list. For today, my outcome is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, sending it in the group so everybody knows what everybody is doing. And as I said, we introduced Asana, where we can see all the projects and what's happening. And over communication is very important. So you're making sure that you over communicate, you speak with people all the time, you record them voice messages, you give them voice calls and video calls as much as possible, etc., etc. But it is, again, paramount important to maintain that high energy and that positivity, to make sure that people in crisis, on lockdown, sitting at home alone, feel that they are part of the community, that they are, you know, that they have clear path forward for what to do next. Okay, we have a question from Andrea. How important is the environment for a positive state? Okay, it is extremely important. And what I mean by environment, and Andrea, please tell me whether this is what you are asking. Environment can, of course, be the environment around us, like the beautiful place. And it can also be the people around us. I would say that people around you are determining huge part of your success and huge part of how you feel. If you are constantly getting yourself into this positive, high state, and the people around you are gloomy and unhappy, etc., etc., then that does not work, of course. That does not work. You are going to fall back into your old ways. So that is why it's very important to set healthy boundaries. For example, stop reading negative news. Like stop reading, for example, I don't read news and certain publications. I read once a week The Economist. And yes, some people may find it strange, like why, Ashley? But I read Economist once a week. I don't want negative news and all this buzz into my feed, because that affects me. I don't watch scary movies. I don't watch dramas. I really don't like them. I don't allow negative people in my life if they are really, you know, what they call emotional vampires and super naysayers. I really try to stay away and set my very healthy boundaries. So environment matters, and it is of course best achieved if you have a partner, a husband, wife, etc., who can be, you know, with you and exploring this together. I recruited my husband very early in. When he saw the results of my, you know, development, I recruited him early in, and that was phenomenal, transformational, very fun, and very fulfilling. If it's not possible to recruit your partner, it's okay, you can do it yourself, but at least protect your boundaries. If somebody is pouring their negativity onto you, just put a stop to that. So environment is important. And Andrea, please let me know if I answered your question. Alberto is saying, ciao, Ashley, thank you for the great session. Great assets. Ask me a question if you have, Alberto. Thank you very much. Chan, thank you for a great session. You talked about positive psychology, to be positive and energetic and influence others. But I sometimes feel that I can be kind of dragged down by others, low energy and negativity. What is your suggestion on how to recharge myself? Okay, very, very important thing. What you need to do right after this session is write down 10 things that put you in a very positive state. Mentally, physically, you are just very happy doing those things. For example, for me, it could be painting. I love painting. The moment I paint, everything disappears. It's very happy. And as you can see, I love bright colors. I love yellow. I love orange. I love happy blue. So painting, splashing colors all around. What else? I love massage. A good massage, going to a nice salon really charges me. I have a couple of friends, a couple of people whom I can call anytime. And when I call them, I know that they will shower me with so much positivity and so much joy and so much happiness. It's going to be phenomenal. So write down 10 things that really charge you. And the moment somebody drags you down, I actually have those things that charge me, and this was previously. Right now I have different commitments there, but if you have a notebook, and I'm a compulsive note taker, right, put them here at the when you open your notebook, put them right here. So you're feeling down, or put them on your phone. I know a person who put it as a phone cover, so when they open, literally flip their phone, they have it here, the things that charge the person. You can do it, you can customize it, you can order it in China, you can order it on the internet. So put them right here and act one of those things immediately, and you will definitely feel better. Another way is, of course, and this needs to go in combination, you need to eliminate people that drag you down consistently. Tammy is asking, hi Ashley, how to maintain good relationships with friends and colleagues? I would say good relationships are, they are a process. You need to invest time into getting to know people. And invest that time by going out, by having lunch, by talking to them. And you need to do it with anyone you would want to have good relationships with, because we have good relationships with people we know, like, and trust. So how do you get this know? Obviously, you're working with them, so you know them. How do you get this like and trust? By continuously doing things together, by getting to know each other better, by asking them questions about their childhood, by really connecting with them about on learning a new skill, by cooperating with them on a project. So that's how you maintain and kickstart these great relationships with people. It's about mutually getting to know each other and essentially working on this like and trust principles. We have another questions. Ksenia says, great session. Any leadership tips in times of uncertainty, especially for businesses and organizations that suffer the most today? I think a leader of a business that is right now being hit needs to have a very flexible mindset. Flexibility is everything in 2020 and beyond. And essentially you need to be ready to change the direction. You shall be ready to change the way some processes run or the clients that you serve. So this flexibility, being truly flexible, and again, being fit mentally to accept this challenge as an opportunity. As I told you at the very beginning of this chat, leaders are shaped in times of crisis. And we don't wake up one morning being leaders. It's either we ourselves internally suffer so much that we beat ourselves into the character, or life gives us a gift. They throw us a crisis, a horrible situation, a bad boss, or whatever. They throw us into the situation that makes and shapes us into leaders. So you need to have the leader with big enough vision. The leader needs to think big. If you think small, your business will always be small. The business will never outperform the mindset of the leader. Secondly, the leader needs to be an optimist, the person that really can show others the way. And number three, they need to stay flexible to change the way things done, the way who you serve and how you serve them. I hope, Ksenia, that answers the question. Now, the last question would be, empathy is often being used in terms of being kind of a fancy term. So my question is, while more and more people want to demonstrate empathy, does it come naturally, or can empathy be practiced and delivered in our day-to-day life? So this is Sandeep. Thank you very much for the question. Okay, empathy is also a learned skill. It is a learned skill. And how do you learn empathy? By connecting and truly understanding that you are part of this much bigger whole. And that comes, everybody has a different journey there. Some people do it through what I do, right? Psychology and personal development, and really understanding those principles. Other people do it as a part of their spiritual journey, right? Connecting with nature, connecting with a bigger world, etc., etc. But empathy is all about understanding that others are not bad human beings, understanding that others are going through their own life and they are doing, that's most important, the best that they can, given their current skills and circumstances. And once you understand that, and once you understand that you are also going through your learning curve, and you also have ups and downs, and you become very humble about it, and you stop judging others. You can be truly empathetic towards others only when you are not from the judging standpoint, when you are observer rather than judger. And I believe that this skill can be trained. And everybody, as I said, goes there through their own route, either trained or through a spiritual journey. Guys, it's 2 minutes. I'm going to take one more question. While you're typing me that last question, I will summarize. I took a couple of notes of what I want to send you. First of all, I will send you the books that I recommend you to check out on psychology, okay? This is what you're going to receive from me. The second thing that actually I would love to send to you is the Decade in Review. It's a workbook, it's a file, which I prepared at the end of last year, which was 3 months ago, where we could review our last year and we could review and plan for the upcoming decade. It is a very interesting file. It's probably going to take a while to understand and to fill in. I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 hours if you do it right, but it is a beautiful mental exercise. And I believe us as leaders, we need to do that. You need to have clarity. In order to achieve clarity, you really need to know where you were a decade ago, what were your biggest lessons, achievements, and then what are you planning next? It's not just a goal setting. It is truly reviewing your decade and connecting with your inner self and setting ambitious but cool kind of goals for the future. So I'm going to share that because I believe that's very, very meaningful. It is a part of my FIRE program that some of you have heard and even tried. Others have not. I'm also going to give you access to FIRE. I recently relocated. Previously it was on mobile device, it was on WeChat and WhatsApp. So it was a group where I would share essentially 8 sessions about positive psychology, my best lessons, and you would follow the assignments and basically submit them back. But I just relocated it from WeChat and WhatsApp onto an app, onto a platform, so it is accessible through a very easy kind of self-study pace. So I'm going to give you also access to that. First 2 lesson sessions are free. Do those 2 free sessions. They are amazing. 2 hours of your time, do the homework. Everybody will benefit. Hope that this was useful. This is my attempt and way to give back to my community and support you leaders